Hi, hello, this is Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee. I'm Faithless Forrest.
And I'm Chad Headley.
And we want you to know that if you don't believe in God, you're not alone. Right here in East Tennessee, you can find free-thinking atheists and agnostics. This is a show for them and for people committed to a life rooted in science and free of supernatural beliefs. On today's show, we have a phone-in guest, Gleb Topersky, and we're going to talk to him about his new book, Finding Your Purpose in Life Using Science, assuming we can get him on the phone.
First, we want to tell you a little bit about the sponsors of the show.
The Atheist Society of Knoxville frequently has a fun meetup at a bar or eatery. Tonight's meetup is at Barley's in the Old City, starting at around 5:30. Look for the silver-jacketed copy of The God Delusion standing upright on the table. And as Matt Dillahunty at Atheist Experience says, everyone is welcome to our happy hour for food, drink, and conversation. But if you plan to preach, proselytize, provoke, or punch, please don't. All right.
The Rationalists of East Tennessee have several regular monthly meetings. The first and third Sunday mornings of the month are usually lectures with lively roundtable discussions. The second Sunday, we hold Skeptics Book Club. On the fourth Sunday, we are mixing it up. Sometimes with a get-together we call Reflections Meeting. It features a potluck lunch in someone's home. Sometimes we play board games or similar activities.
Once in a while, we've had picnics as well. All right. Later on in the show, we will give you our websites to visit for additional details, including times and locations. Let's go in the news. All right. Well, members on the Atheist Society of Knoxville's Facebook page alerted me to the following item. I guess this is a TV show. 19 Kids and Counting is off the air after the oldest son admitted to molesting 2 of his sisters and a girl from another family. The Dugars are part of the Horrible Quiverful movement, and that ensures that they didn't get counseling for their daughters and didn't take their son to a police station.
The organization Reproductive Health Reality Check reports, Quiverful probably began as a self-conscious movement with the publication of Rick and Jan Hess's 1989 book, A Full Quiver, Family Planning and the Lordship of Christ, in which they argue that God, as the great physician and sole birth controller, is in charge of opening and closing the womb on a case-by-case basis. Women's attempts to control their own bodies, the Lord's temple, are a seizure of divine power.
The Lord's temple, huh? I think a person owns their own body. Yahweh can get one of his own. All right. Now let's see. Also in the news, the Center for Medical Progress released a video supposedly proving that Planned Parenthood sells dead fetal tissue, and it went viral this week.
It's now proven that the video was heavily edited, and the IRS may go after the organization for misrepresenting itself as a biomedicine charity. And the nonprofit's registration form is Troy Newman, who runs Operation Rescue, an anti-choice activist group who have inspired killers of providers of reproductive services, including abortion.
CNN makes the following report. Federal regulations state that women must decide to have an abortion before clinicians can ask whether they would like to donate fetal tissue. One concern is that women would have more pregnancies or abortions because they want to donate fetal tissue. In addition, clinicians performing the abortions cannot receive payment from researchers who will receive fetal materials except for reimbursements of costs such as shipping.
The tiny sum of money discussed in the video sounds like a bargain even for shipping.
Yeah, but apparently, when you ship a tissue that has to be kept frozen and stuff like that, that's not just, a $6 priority mail envelope kind of fee. All right. From their website, the Center for Medical Progress is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to monitoring and reporting on medical ethics and advances.
Seems that their ethics do not include telling the truth. News flash from the book of Yahweh, Exodus 20, verse 16, "Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor." In the King James, or more commonly, "do not lie."
So do not lie there, Medical Center for Progress. All right. Well, also here in Tennessee, there was a shooting in Chattanooga. Fox News reported in error that ISIS had tweeted responsibility just before the shooting started, but it turns out their crack reporters could not get the time zones correct.
Speculating and spinning on ISIS involvement even after the time zone mistake was uncovered, Bill O'Reilly again misses the involvement of people of Abrahamic religion directly in the so-called Holy Lands and worldwide and now in Tennessee.
Yeah, as I was driving here to the studio today, there was more information coming in on that. It sounds like this guy was alone. He wasn't working with ISIS, and he had been, I guess, searching the internet for, principles about martyrdom and stuff. So he appears to definitely be motivated by an Abrahamic religion, but there doesn't appear to be an ISIS connection at this time. All right. Well, in addition to this news, we've got, you've got a piece for us you found, I guess, out of Boulder, Colorado?
This is from Daily Camera in Boulder, Colorado. Boulder prosecutors allege 4 Vine Life church officials accused of covering up reports that a youth pastor at the church sexually assaulted a teenage congregant have refused to accept responsibility for their actions and created a disturbing culture of secrecy and non-disclosure at the church.
At the heart of the case is the local church's coordinated efforts to conceal a victim's report of repeated acts of sexual abuse perpetrated by a youth pastor, the son of one of the church's elders from the church's own congregation. The local community and law enforcement of Boulder County prosecutors wrote in a sentence memorandum filed in the case. Well, it sounds like these people haven't learned the lesson that the Catholic Church has been slowly coming to grips with, and that is that when you've got problems in your church, you can't cover it up. They appear to have been more interested in maintaining their image than protecting this teenager.
Sounds like they learned more from 19 Kids and Counting.
Yeah, yep. Well, let's see. We've got some anniversaries to observe here. So today is July 21st, 2015. Yesterday was July 20th, and the 46th anniversary of the first human footprint on the moon, a triumph of science and technology.
This past weekend was the 157th anniversary of the Seneca Falls Convention, a convention to discuss the social, civil, and religious condition and rights of a woman. The results of that convention was the publication of the Declaration of Rights and Sentiments.
Patterned after the Revolutionary War's Declaration of Independence, this document is the first by any such convention to call for a woman's right to vote. Only one of the persons signing that document in 1848 lived long enough to actually vote after the ratification of the 19th Amendment in 1920. Elizabeth Cady Stanton, organizer of the convention, said years later, "In the early days of the women's suffrage agitation, I saw that the greatest obstacle we had to overcome was the Bible. It was hurled at us on every side."
July 21st in 1925 was the day when John Scopes was convicted of violating the Butler Act. Tennessee's Butler Act prohibited the teaching of human evolution in public schools. Wikipedia reports, the trial publicized the fundamentalist modernist controversy, which set modernists who said evolution was not inconsistent with religion against fundamentalists who said the Word of God as revealed in the Bible took priority over all human knowledge.
Just think of the fundamentalist ideas still trying to survive in the light of modern science. The Hebrew Bible, writing that there was night and day before the sun, the moon, and stars were created on the fourth day.
Would it not be fun to have a time machine and go find the authors of that nonsense and tell them about the 1969 landing on the moon, a world of mountains and craters and rocks older than they ever found the Earth?
And dinosaurs, don't forget to tell them, those Bronze Age people, about dinosaurs.
Viewers, what would you tell the Bronze Age authors of the Hebrew Bible if you could?
All right. Well, it would appear that the technology is with us, and our guest has called in. Gleb, are you there? All right. Could you speak up again?
I am there, yes.
All righty, great.
Can you hear me well?
I'm hearing you okay. Is Sam able to hear us through the rest of the system? He says he thinks so. So I think we're going to have to charge ahead and hope the viewers get you as well. So, viewers, we have with us via telephone technology scholar, scientist, popularizer, educator, social entrepreneur, and now author, Dr. Gleb Kaspersky.
This is a call-in show, so we would invite you to participate with your question to our guest by calling the number on your screen.
Gleb, did I even approximate the pronunciation of your last name, and can you maybe help us with that?
Sure. You actually did a really great job. Thank you. Yeah, it's Kaspersky, so you got it right on, and yeah, that's great. You don't have to go through, you don't have to say it. Gleb will be fine.
All right. Well,
Just get it right.
I'm going to take the cowardly way out and use Gleb as well. All right.
Please.
So before talking about your book, can you tell us and the viewers about the other identities you have besides author, scholar, educator, popular science popularizer, and social entrepreneur? What are they all about?
Sure. Happy to tell you. So my professional background is as a professor. I'm a professor at Ohio State University. Go Bucks. And I am a historian of science. I study the area, the intersection of the history of psychology, cognitive neuroscience, and medicine. And I'm specifically interested in the questions of meaning and purpose, emotions, decision-making, agency, social control in various settings, and specifically non-American settings. I decided to focus my research on the major secular alternative to the United States in the 20th century, which was the Soviet Union. That was the major modern contemporary society that was the alternative to the Soviet one. So I decided to focus my research on that field, and that is where I can take information from that and apply it to our current world from a really non-biased perspective, from a perspective that's an outside perspective, outside of our current context. So that's the area of scholarship. As an educator, so as I mentioned, I'm a professor at Ohio State, and so I've been teaching there for a while. And as a science popularizer, more recently I've gotten into popularizing the science on psychology and cognitive neuroscience and medicine as they apply to our thinking and feeling patterns. And that brings me to my identity as a social entrepreneur. So I'm the co-founder and volunteer president of an all-new, all-volunteer nonprofit, Intentional Insights. And this is an organization devoted to helping reason-oriented people empower themselves to improve their thinking, feeling, and behavior patterns based on research, based on various sorts of research, as I mentioned. So popularizing the science and applying it to daily life. It's essentially a really new genre, a new field of science-based self-improvement. You know, we have, in the reason-oriented movement, we have people who popularize material science, such as Bill Nye, Neil deGrasse Tyson. They do a great job. But we don't really have people who popularize brain science and how relevant it is for daily life, for our relationships, for how we think about ourselves, for how we think about our lives, how we feel about it. So this is the area that I am focusing on with my efforts and with this organization.
Gleb, let me ask a clarification there. Let me ask a clarification there. You were saying how, we have the popularizers of the physical science, and then you were contrasting that with something, and I missed a word there that meant that I didn't quite follow that. So back up.
We don't have popularizers in the reason-oriented movement of brain science.
Brain science, there we go.
Right.
Yeah.
Like psychology and cognitive neuroscience. And these are the fields that are so relevant for how we live our lives, how we think about ourselves, how we think about our relationships, how we think about just our being in the world and society itself. For example, how do we make our decisions? It's very easy for us to just make decisions based on what are called cache patterns and thinking errors. I'll give you an example. So when we go to have a meeting with a boss, let's say we have a boss and we go with the meeting to the annual review with the boss, and the boss presents us with some constructive criticism. The natural human tendency is to be very defensive. And just hide and plug one's ears and yell, la, 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 I don't want to hear you.
All right.
That's natural. That's what our lizard brain, our emotional self, is naturally predisposed to do. What would be rational would be to really listen to the feedback and take it fully and improve based on the feedback. But that's not the intuitive, natural thing to do. It's so much better for us throughout life to be making these more rational decisions and to shift our emotions to make more rational decisions, to want and desire that feedback, that constructive criticism. And that is an example of a basic strategy that the organization discusses. So how to do these everyday life things and how to think about them better. And that's Intentional Insights. The website is intentionalinsights.org, and we have blogs, videos, online classes, books, everything, all of this content, essentially science-based self-improvement materials, evidence-based stuff.
All right, and so I guess the interesting kind of thing is that you can also bring a perspective to it in that you haven't grown up entirely in the United States.
Yes, I haven't been brought up in the United States, and I grew up in the Soviet Union until I was 10, and then my parents immigrated when it was falling apart to the United States. So I had a leg up when I decided to study the Soviet Union and get that outside perspective on the American system, because the best way to really understand where we live and our society is to look at it from the outside in. And so that gave me a real leg up in understanding the Soviet Union and being able to bring that knowledge to our society here.
What did you find surprising as you immersed yourself in Western and Christian worldview?
Well, one of the really surprising things was how individualistic it was and how it discounted the importance of social bonds and relationships and ties. So we in our Western society are very individualistically oriented. However, much of the research on cognitive neuroscience, psychology, medicine really shows how humans are social animals and how much we are dependent on others. And the current setup in our society really undercuts this mutual dependence and our ability to interact well with other people. And as a counterexample would be the Soviet Union or Japan or Sweden or China, a lot of other societies which are more collectively oriented and really pay close, nuanced, careful attention to these ties between individuals. So in my research on the Soviet Union, I examined these cultural institutions called clubs. And they were essentially civic centers, community centers, that provided opportunities for social bonds, community networking, social support of various sorts that are in the United States really present only in churches, so only in religious settings. And unfortunately, able to find in the Soviet Union. And they have similar institutions, as I mentioned, in Sweden, Norway, other countries, Japan, China, countries that are also democratically oriented, capitalistic, not necessarily China, but Japan, Scandinavian countries, and other countries in Europe.
Well, Gleb, a question has occurred to me, and that is, I think really in the past 10 years, the Orthodox Church has been really trying to reassert itself in Russia, and so have things like the clubs been that were government funded, have they ceased to exist, and the church is taking advantage of this void?
The church is taking advantage of this somewhat. Yes, clubs have ceased to exist, and as part of my research, I spent many years doing this research over probably about a decade, and I have interviewed a number of people, I think over 50 interviews in all, who have really expressed a lot of regret that the clubs ceased to exist because the government is not sponsoring them anymore, really. The church has tried to take advantage of these opportunities, but there has been more advantage taken by capitalists, so people who buy up the old clubs and turn them into discos, nightclubs, and stuff like that, where you actually have to pay quite a lot of money to get in there. But yes, there has been some resurgence by the church in dominating these, in engaging with these community connections.
All righty. Well, I'm not sure if you're watching us online. We put up the big slide with the question mark and asking the question, and if I could read, what is the meaning of life? And, how can evidence-based science-informed approach go? So this great big question mark here, what did you want to say about in answer to that?
Well, so there's been a lot of research in the fields like existential therapy, fields like analytical psychology, logotherapy, and other psychological cognitive neuroscience approaches. I was actually talking to a cognitive neuroscientist yesterday who was really interested in doing fMRI studies of the brain that we experience when we think about our meaning and purpose in life. So, but essentially there has been a lot of research on this topic, and there has been really some strong research evidence that scientific methods can help us figure out what is the meaning of life for us, how to develop an individual sense of meaning and purpose. It's been shown to really work, and that science can really provide answers to these big questions, such as why are we here? What is our purpose? What is the meaning of it all? And yes, the science can answer these big questions. And I anticipate that in the future, science will help provide answers to questions which were previously answered only by theology and philosophy. So, but that's the science. That's the answer to the question about the science.
Gleb, how does having a lack of meaning and purpose impact people's mental and physical health?
Well, it's a big question. Thank you for raising that. I think what the research shows, so first of all, there's a lot of negative impact on people's mental health if they lack a sense of meaning and purpose. People become depressed, people become anxious, there's correlation with alcoholism, drug use, risky behaviors by teenagers and others. So there's a lot of negatives if you don't have a sense of meaning and purpose for one's mental health, and a lot of positives if you do. So things like sense of life satisfaction, sense of enjoyment, sense of real being in the world. And physical health as well. So lack of meaning and purpose has been shown to be correlated with things like strokes, heart disease, Alzheimer's, and various other things you don't want to experience, believe me. So, and vice versa, having a sense of meaning and purpose has been shown to be correlated with longevity, various forms of good health. So older people live quite a bit older. People who are in dire straits, dire conditions, are able to really survive and thrive if they have a sense of meaning and purpose, and they don't if they don't. So that's the impact of meaning and purpose on people's mental and physical health.
Gleb, let me actually raise a kind of, it's almost like a personal kind of question, and that is, or really it's sort of a question as to how well you've experienced some American culture. Have you ever seen the movie starring John Dean called Rebel Without a Cause?
Yes, I have.
Would that have been something that you would have seen as a youngster in the former Soviet Union, or did you see that after coming here to the United States?
Yeah, I saw it after coming here to the United States. They generally wouldn't play that sort of movie in the Soviet Union because it wouldn't be very considered appropriate for Soviet citizens to watch that sort of stuff.
Well, as you were talking about, though, not having a purpose, leading teens to risky behavior, I couldn't help but think of the title of that movie, The Rebel Without a Cause. Of course, we actually we watched it in high school, and then we had discussion about it, and the teacher made a point that, in a sense, we all have a cause, and at that age, it is trying to kind of finish growing up. And that, to say without a cause is to miss the point that growing up is a hard thing.
Yeah, I think that movie is really not, the title is misleading. James Dean has a purpose, which is to free himself of the adult and societal influences and really live the kind of life that he wants to live. It's a very individualistically oriented movie. So, and that ties into the sense of individualism, which I was talking about in the United States. He does have a purpose, but he tries to live that purpose. It might not be explicitly stated in the movie what his purpose is, but it's very implicit throughout the movie.
All right. Well, interesting that you have at least seen that. All right. So can you perhaps tell us about science-based strategies for finding meaning and purpose in life for someone like James Dean's character?
Sure. And it's for anyone. Science has shown that there are three broad areas into finding meaning and purpose in life. And those three areas are self-reflection, so sitting down and using various techniques of reflecting on meaning and purpose in life. And I describe those in detail in my book, Find Your Purpose Using Science. And it's available on the Intentional Insights website. If you go to www.intentionalinsights.org, you'll see the second post down is about that. Then self-reflection, then community engagement. So community engagement includes things like getting together in groups, like your group in Knoxville, the rationalist group, and so on. So various groups getting together and engaging with these groups. And also family engagement, so engaging with one's family, engaging with friends, so community and social bonds. The third big strategy is serving others. So engaging in social service to other people, volunteering, then various forms of philanthropy and various philanthropic donations that are meaningful to you. So philanthropic donations, effective altruism is a particularly good area to donate. It's an evidence-based area. And of course, I need to mention that Intentional Insights is a 501c3 nonprofit and would appreciate any donations as well. Then political engagement. So engaging in political activities that are important and meaningful to you. Again, and that is a way of serving others.
All right. Did you say something like effective altruism? There was an adjective there I wasn't certain I got.
Effective altruism.
Okay.
It's a new movement dedicated to evidence-based evaluation of philanthropy, of charities.
So I puzzled over that because my first thought was, well, where would there be non-effective altruism? Or the adjective didn't seem necessary. But then, of course, I remembered the famous saying from Annie Laurie Gaylor of the Freedom from Religion Foundation, that nothing fails like prayer. So prayer would be ineffective altruism, I guess.
Indeed, and as I'm sure all of us know, donations to churches are the largest, are the plurality of the donations that Americans give. I would argue that the vast majority, the large majority of those donations may qualify as ineffective options.
Perhaps because they're supporting a pastor or minister who is not always directing his congregation to effective engagement in the real world.
Yes, exactly. And if your goal is to be altruistic and help improve the world, donations to churches are not necessarily the best way of improving the world. You know, things like donations to soup kitchens or malaria nets for people in Africa might be more effective ways of improving the world than donations to churches. I mean, I remember going to Jerusalem and going to the temples there and seeing the beautiful decorations made of gold and thinking about what if all of that stuff was sold and just invested into feeding hungry children? You know, it would be such a more effectively altruistic use of that sort of of that sort of money than just having it be in churches in Jerusalem.
Yeah, I must say I have to agree with you on that. The same observation has been made about the Vatican as well.
Yes, of course.
We are, though, at about the halfway point, and I think what we'd like to do is ask you to stay on the line. And Chad and I, we need to jump in and do our mid-program break here so that viewers who have just tuned in will know who we are. And I guess here I go. In case you're just tuning in, this is Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee. Freethought Forum is funded jointly by them and by individual contributions. Shows are live most every Tuesday from 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern on Knoxville Community Access Channel 12 and Channel 194, depending upon your local cable network. Tell your out-of-town friends to see us streaming online at ctvknox.org.
This is a call-in show, and we are live today, July 21st, 2015, and viewers can call in now to the number on the screen with a short comment or question. Call in now while we go to an informative break.
All right. The screen's gone blank. I have no idea. Are the viewers still watching us or the video? Well, it looks like we have technical difficulties here. We may have to plow on and do the video another week. All right. The Atheist Society of Knoxville, or ASK, meets 2 times a week. We have evening meetups for fun, food, drink, and conversation. ASK's purpose is to supply a venue for community, camaraderie, and outreach to atheists, agnostic, freethinkers, and other like-minded people. All right. We're meeting this evening at Barley's Tap Room and Pizzeria in the Knoxville Old City.
The second Sunday of most months is the Skeptics Book Club. The title of the August book is Sons of Wichita, How the Koch brothers Became America's Most Powerful and Private Dynasty, by Daniel Schulman. Sunday, August 9 at 2 p.m. The public is invited to participate. You need not have read the book to attend, but of course it helps. Visit rationalist.org to find the rest of the calendar of books and join us at the new location, Books A Million, 8513 Kingston Pike, Knoxville, Tennessee.
Both the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee provide a social outlet where you'll find that if you don't believe in Zeus or follow Zoroaster or say yuck to Yahweh, you are not alone. All right. Well, today we have a phone-in interview. We're speaking with Gleb. I don't even have it written in front of me. Tispersky. Did I get it anywhere correct there this time, Gleb?
Yes,
all right.
You did. You're doing great, Facebook.
All right. Well, I've had a few times to practice. Gleb is an author of a book, Finding Your Purpose in Life Using Science, and we have been discussing it with him. We urge viewers to call in and ask Gleb about finding purpose in life, and how it is that people without faith can find plenty of purpose in life, contrary to the assertions of religious people. Chad, where did we leave off? We had some questions here for Gleb.
We were just finishing with the strategies to find meaning and purpose in life. How can people actually measure and evaluate their current level of meaning and purpose? How can they measure and evaluate any gains they make?
Sure, I think that's a really important question. So we, as reason-oriented, science-oriented people, it is important for us to evaluate and have metrics. So the book that you mentioned, Find Your Purpose Using Science, that I wrote, and again, it's available. You can learn more about it at the Intentional Insights website, so www.intentionalinsights.org. And this book has a quantitative instrument which you can use to evaluate your sense of meaning and purpose. It's called the Meaning and Purpose Questionnaire. It's based on the research in psychology, cognitive neuroscience, and medicine on the actual things that cause us to experience meaning and purpose in life. Things that I mentioned before. Things such as self-reflection, things such as community bonds, and things such as social justice, and a variety of other related questions. And then, so the way the book goes is it has that evaluative instrument at the beginning, then you go through the book and you do a series of exercises. First you read the thinkers about meaning and purpose, the science on it, and then there are a series of exercises on meaning and purpose, to develop one's sense of meaning and purpose. They include things like developing a sense of your long-term goals and how you do that, developing that connection from them to your daily life, journaling about them, which is a science-based way of figuring out meaning and purpose, secular meditation, which is another science-based way of discovering, understanding your meaning and purpose. Then the book has a variety of strategies for engaging in community activities and experiencing meaning and purpose for them, and then social justice.
All right.
And finally, an overall plan to bring it all together, finishing up with another questionnaire of the same sort, the meaning and purpose questionnaire.
All right.
So you have a questionnaire at the beginning that measures your meaning and purpose. Then the whole book, then a questionnaire at the end. So you can clearly know the extent of change in your meaning and purpose as you go through the book itself. So
All right.
it gives you that clear metric, so you don't have any doubt.
Well, Gleb, I can see how that is a kind of a scientific method. You are measuring and you're making a change and then attempting to measure the effect of the change. While you were speaking, we've been alerted. We have our first call, and so here we go. You should be able to hear the caller as well. We're going to push the button and bring them on. Hello, caller. This is Freethought Forum TV. Can we get a name or a nickname, please?
Yeah, it's Charles from Central Illinois. Believe it or not, I had a guy call me.
All right. Hello, Charles. Do you have a comment or question for our guest,
Yes.
Gleb? All right. Well, let's hear it, and then we'll need to find out if Gleb is hearing you as well.
Okay. Given the marvels we've discovered through the use of science, I find one of the purposes of my life is to see just how much beauty and wonderful things that are out there. And is there a biological or psychological basis for that kind of thing?
Gleb, did you get Charles's question?
I think I got most of it. Let me see. I will try to repeat it and say plus you can correct me if I'm wrong. Charles said something like that he finds meaning and purpose in the beauty of life, in the beauty of nature, and he asked if there's a way to measure that. Am I correct?
Charles,
More right.
did he get the question correctly?
No. could there be a neurological and biological basis for the pleasure I find in the things we find through science?
So a measure for the pleasure that you find in that meaning.
Yes.
Okay. So the meaning and purpose questionnaire has a measure for the extent of meaning that you find on a 1 to 10 scale. And through various activities. It's designed so that you can evaluate your own sense of meaning and purpose. It doesn't correlate necessarily to what that meaning and purpose brings to you. That's an individual measure. But it evaluates your current sense of meaning and purpose. And it enables you to go through a variety of activities which, from the science on meaning and purpose, will likely help you increase your sense of meaning and purpose. For example, if you find meaning and purpose in the natural wonder of the world, there are strategies to increase that. For example, journaling about these natural wonders, engaging in meditation around these natural wonders, engaging in community activities built around your sense of natural wonder. You can talk about them to people in the atheist society of Knoxville, and so on. Or engage in community service. For example, if you enjoy nature itself, you can engage in hikes, nature cleanup, and so on. So there are a variety of strategies to increase that sense of meaning and purpose, whatever you find meaning and purpose in, through using these science-based strategies.
Charles?
That's where I was considering. I'm glad to have at least one person confirm that. Like the flyby of Pluto, or the intricate rings of Saturn, or the discovery of a lake buried underneath miles of ice in Antarctica, all give me a nice thrill of discovery.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. That's one thing that it sounds like these are the things that you get your sense of meaning and purpose from. And if you're currently satisfied with that, that's great, that's wonderful. So if you choose to increase your sense of meaning and purpose and the pleasure that you get from it, you know where to go. Find your purpose using science. But if you're happy where you currently are, that's great as well.
All right. Well, Charles, thank you for helping us interview Gleb here. Do you have any more? Do you have something quick? We got about 15 minutes left. We could, entertain a quick question, then we should clear the line so we could get some more.
Yes. Did you hear the latest on the Chattanooga, Tennessee shooter?
Well, we spoke a little earlier in the program about that. The latest thing I heard on NPR is it sounds like he was acting alone. He was searching the internet for ideas on martyrdom. And so to the extent that, he was claimed to have been, coordinating with ISIS, that appears to be baseless hysteria. Yeah.
Yeah. But he was also extensively into drug use, and apparently it was having severe mental problems. He had been fired from a really good job because of that. And so it seems to be a lot more complicated than a lot of people want it to be. They all want to blame it on just radical Muslims or Muslims in general.
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't observe that the Abrahamic faiths have as some of their central important acts child sacrifice. Abraham is the founder of the Abrahamic faiths because he was prepared to sacrifice his own son and Yahweh rewarded
It goes
him with
even
that.
before Abraham, because in part of Genesis, they have a statement, well, thou shalt sacrifice unto the Lord the firstborn of all the living things, including your son, which seems to predate Abraham himself.
Yep. So, let's move back. Let's move away from religion and back to more promising things, finding a meaning of life using science. Charles, thank you for calling in, and we'll say goodbye for now.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right, viewers, we have about 14 minutes left. We'll be able to take calls to the last, 5 to 3 minutes of the show. But if you'd like to ask a question about finding purpose and meaning in life using science, please give us a call right away. I made some notes while you were answering, I forget if you were answering Charles' question. Here's what I've written. I've written meditation and Sam Harris. So something you said about meditation reminded me that Sam Harris talks about this as well. And, I know that some people have, complained about classroom activities involving meditation in the public schools as claiming that that is somehow promoting some sort of non-Christian religion. So when you say meditation, what do you think of that? And, can't that really be secular?
Yes, definitely. Meditation, of course, can be secular. I don't know about the specific issues with meditation in high school, so I can't comment on that. But I can comment specifically on secular meditation. So, John Kabat-Zinn was the progenitor. He was the early father of bringing secular forms of meditation into Western medicine. And this started in the late 1970s, early 80s. He conducted a number of studies showing the benefits of meditation for improving mental health and physical health. Especially with physical health, it was especially having to do with things like decreasing blood pressure and dealing with pain and various other things that are associated with how our brain affects our body. With mental health, there are many more benefits, with better well-being, decrease of anxiety, decrease of depression, and various other indicators of mental well-being. So there is a lot of science backing up the benefits of meditation. And the only reason I myself took up meditation and I advocate meditation is because the science is there to back it up.
All right, well, that's great. While you were speaking, we've been shown there's another call waiting for us, so we'll bring them on. And caller, can we get a name or a nickname for you, please?
What you said was just fine. Caller works out pretty well.
All right, caller. And do you have a comment or a question for our author, Gleb?
Yeah, actually, I'm having a lot of trouble hearing on the computer, but I've caught most everything. And at one point, it said, I believe you said science can answer what is the meaning of life. I believe that it's exactly what he said, because I think he said it twice. And the answer to the meaning of life is something I usually thought that science sort of shied away from. So this is kind of a departure, isn't it?
Well, Gleb, did you get caller's question?
Yes, the caller is surprised that science is dealing with questions of meaning and purpose in life.
No,
He's surprised by
that
that.
science does not usually apply to the meaning of life, but you are.
Well, I'm a little worried about semantics issue here. For one thing,
Okay.
Gleb, you're not saying that there is one meaning of life and science has found it. You're not saying that, right?
Not at all. Science has, this is all about discovering the individual meaning of life for oneself. How one gains an individual sense of meaning and purpose in life. So the science, as I talked about earlier in the show, is not saying that there's one meaning of life. It is saying there are clear strategies based on the science for how one can gain a personal, individual sense of meaning and purpose in life. Different people can have different senses of meaning and purpose in life, and that's totally fine. That's what the research shows. But there are specific strategies to gain this sense of meaning and purpose, and the science has shown how this is beneficial for our mental and physical health. So if we want good in mental and physical health, we should try to gain a strong sense of meaning and purpose in life. And that's what I'm talking about in the book, Find Your Purpose Using Science, available on intentionalinsights.org.
I see. So using this technique, a person might find that his meaning in life is dancing, the ballet, or his meaning in life might be painting, or his meaning in life might be some sort of maybe a scientific endeavor, that which makes one have a purpose for getting up in the morning. Would that be about correct?
So the science shows that meaning in life is derived from three aspects, three broad strategies: self-reflection, community activities, and serving others. So things like dancing, to the extent that dancing involves all three of those. For example, if you're a dancer and you dance in a community troupe and you do free performances for others, so you self-reflect on your dancing, that would be the kind of thing that gives you meaning and purpose in life. But it would have to involve all those three areas of self-reflection, of community activities, and of social service.
I see. Well, I believe that one might be a little bit suspicious. Of course, I can understand what you're saying here, but in the past, we've had people that's used, the word science in order to promote themselves, such as, the Christian Scientists or the Church of Scientology, and then there's such things as biorhythm and numerology.
And that's unfortunate that they have done so. I mean, my credentials should speak for themselves. I'm a professor of the history of science, teach at Ohio State, and I'm a science popularizer. I've published many peer-reviewed papers in journals. My academic book is coming out next year, so I'm quite credentialed to speak about what the actual science is like.
I can appreciate. Okay, so your scientific training is in what?
It's in the history of science.
History.
The area of intersection between psychology, cognitive neuroscience, and medicine. So I focus on the history of science because it allows me to draw on many scientific disciplines at once, and
well, I'm sure
not be limited to any one scientific discipline.
I'm sure that your book would be a very good guide for anybody that's like you're saying, somebody walking around going, what's the meaning of life? And by using your technique, I guess someone would be able to figure out what the meaning of life is for them. I appreciate the call. I was a little bit confused, so I thought I'd call in and try to, because I couldn't hear all that well on the computer.
Caller, before you go, and let me ask Gleb a question that might help you. Gleb, I visited your website, and I think you have a few free activities there as well, right? So that visitors could get it.
There's a free version. There's a free version of the book, which includes everything except the exercise. The exercises are available for $3, or whatever, $2.99. So the free book describes everything: the science, the philosophy, the health and well-being benefits, includes some exercises. So that's a great way to just get started and see what it's about.
All right. Well, caller, we want to thank you, and I'm going to ask you to clear the line. We may be able to take one more question. Thank you so much. All right. So, Gleb, we've got about 5 minutes here, and assuming we don't get any callers, are there any questions that you wish Chad and I had asked you that we should focus on in these last 5 minutes?
Sure. So I mentioned that I wanted to share a little bit about how I find meaning and purpose in life. And based on the science itself, once I figured out what the science is, I started to engage in self-reflection. So I journal every day based on the scientific findings about the benefits of journaling. I engage in meditation daily for the same reasons. I engage in various sorts of community activities and so form social bonds, again, based on the scientific findings. And I engage in various civic activities. So my goal of finding meaning and purpose and cultivating my own purpose in life and my own well-being resulted in me co-founding the organization Intentional Insights, which is devoted to popularizing the science. And I co-founded it with my spouse and partner, Agnes Yashnievkin, and a bunch of other great folks. We have a really great team here at Intentional Insights who are dedicated to helping others learn these strategies, these techniques, and have more rational thinking and emotional intelligence about brain science. And so this is my way of giving back to the world and serving others, this sort of civic engagement. So that's why I'm donating most of the profits from the sale of the book, the worksheets part of it, Find Your Purpose Using Science and Intentional Insights.org, to the organization itself, to promoting the mission. And I think it's really important for all of us as rational people to evaluate what we are about, why our thinking patterns are the way they are, why our feeling patterns are the way they are, why we do what we do, and come up with the most effective ways of achieving our goals. The only thing in life we can control is ourselves, our bodies, our minds, our thinking, feeling, and behavior patterns. And so it is incumbent upon us, it is very important for us to take as much control and have as much agency and have as much power over these domains as possible. And that's the kind of thoughts I want to leave your viewers with, and that's the kind of organization that I run, Intentional Insights and intentionalinsights.org.
All right, well, that's great. We've got about a minute left, and I know when I have the chance, I always love to show people the rings of Saturn through a telescope. That's how I share science. Can you give me a 30-second summary of how you share science?
Sure. So I just let you know that the way I share science is I ask people, what is the area of life under your control? And most people, they don't really think about what's under their control. They think, oh, my house, oh, my car, oh, my property, whatever, my house. But it's not really under your control. You know, things can burn down. Your car can be stolen. The only things under your control that you can really influence is your mind. That's all that's in there. That's the rationalist perspective on life. That's what being rational is all about. So think about how you can improve your mind, how you can improve the way you control the only things in life you can control. So that's how I share about science.
Be quick.
Gleb, do you see any similarities between what you described as the destruction of the clubs in Russia and a lot of the anti-science, junk science campaigns that are coming about in the last few years?
And we got to do this in 30 seconds.
Sure. In Russia, yeah, I do. Clubs definitely help promote the scientific viewpoint. One of their purposes was to promote science-based viewpoints, and that was part of the Soviet Union's mission to promote scientific viewpoints on life. And some of the attacks on them have been from the resurgence of religion and attacking the science-based perspectives promoted in clubs.
All righty. Well, hey, it's time to start wrapping things up. Get out your pen and paper. This has been Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee. I'm Faithless Forrest.
I'm Chad Headley. Please send us feedback. Leave voicemail at 865-272-9060 or email us at freethoughtforum@yahoo.com.
You can see this show most Tuesdays from 5 to 6 p.m., and you can watch it online at ctvknox.org.
The opinions expressed on the show are of the host and guest, not any official opinion of ASK or RET. We would like to thank our viewers and send thanks to Sam Jonas for technical support, to the staff at CTV Knox, and to all